Hello and welcome to That Atheist Show.
I'm Connie, that atheist lady.
I'm Preston, That Atheist Dude. Tonight we have Tom Vile with us, an ex-evangelist. He's been around for about 20 years in the Christian scene doing hardcore things like Christian rock music, just all kind of fun things that we're going to talk about tonight. So, Tom Vile, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Basically, we want to know where you came from, how you started, how you got into the whole entire uh, evangelist thing that you were in for 20 years.
Sure. Well, it all started, growing up in the faith. I mean, it was just coming from a Christian family, raised mostly Baptist. But as we started getting more towards my later teenage years, I started to, play around with some music and things, which tended to lead more towards the evangelical side of things. So, I eventually was ordained as a pastor, and was put in the role of a music minister and led worship, on Sunday mornings and things like that. And then also went on to do some preaching from the pulpit. So, over the course of those 20 years or so, going from that and then crawling out of that hole, which led me to realizing that there's something better here to life than trying to force other people to believe in something that they should come to their own, thought process on their own. So I started researching, and that led to my deconversion process later on.
Now, when you say forcing people to believe, you're saying that from personal experience of actually going out, doing missions, and telling people that they should believe in order to live better lives.
Yeah, absolutely. It was missions, whether it's going to other countries like Mexico, or even in our own state. I mean, doing weekly walks on the street downtown, and trying to get people to bow their head and say a prayer, to accept Jesus in their heart. And that sounds silly today, but at the time I completely believed it, and was really, really involved with it.
The delusion is very strong.
Yes, it is. I mean, when you're raised with it, you don't really have anything else to gauge it on. We're completely sheltered from absolutely everything else that's out there, and even the preaching from the pulpit is going to tell you that don't go off and try to have a free mind.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Definitely, yeah. Whenever I was in church, it was very much like that also, where, anybody who doesn't go to this specific church, even people from other denominations, don't listen to them because they're wrong, and what we're telling you is the right thing. Don't question it. If there's any doubt in your mind, it's seeds from Satan trying to lead you astray, and
Right.
So
Now,
just crazy.
you said that rock
Yeah.
music led you to the evangelical side. What do you mean led you to? What led you to there? Because what were you before you did evangelical?
It's a good question. I was raised in a church where it was strictly hymnals, so there was no additional instruments that were to be played in church,
Ooh.
which was
Do you mean organ?
yeah,
Or it's just
organ.
organ? Wow.
Yeah, organ and piano, which to me was quite boring. And
Yeah.
taking guitar lessons and learning guitar and doing things like that, I really enjoyed it. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to stay there. And it wasn't just that led me away from it. It was just the constant barrage of, you're no good, you're nothing unless you can win souls for Jesus. So that played a toll on me when I got to be 18, 19 years old, and I started to get into the more feelings-based approach to things, and then that led me on to leaving that church with my parents, who then pretty much disowned me for a little while. But everything's great now with them. But because if I left the church, there was no other good church other than the church that I was supposed to.
Only theirs was right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was a little difficult transition period there.
That is amazing, actually. That is completely amazing. Now, you said that you have a good relationship with them. Before the show, we were talking about how do the roles play out, being raised in a fundamental family such as that.
Yeah, it's much like what you would hear about the submission to the husbands, the head of the house.
So they follow those verses.
Yeah, they follow those verses, and the things that they call the women's work. Being at home, and my mom was stay at home, but she worked when we went to school, but she still was had the meal on the table at 5:30. She had the stuff done. Even in the church setting, the ladies had their own separate groups from the men because we couldn't commingle together and talk because there's the appearance of evil that something might be going on. So there was no trust. There was no trust there within that church community, which is kind of sad to think that grown adults can't communicate with one another without thinking that there's something else going on.
Right. Absolutely. There's really no
Yeah.
love.
Right.
No realistic love to where it's from person to person. There's always that God barrier in between.
Yeah.
In situations like that.
And also, they super sexualize everything to the point that if with their trying to stay away from sex, like they inadvertently make everything about sex, because that was the same way at the Pentecostal church that I went to when I was a kid. It was like everybody's Bible studies were separate because you didn't want to be in the same room, like boys and girls couldn't be in the same room together because then they might start to have, sexual thoughts about the girls that are in the room, or what they might be tempted. So we couldn't even read. Yeah, we couldn't even read about the Bible in mixed company because we would be distracted from the Bible by our sinful sexual brains.
Lustful nature. And that actually just made us more curious.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It surely did.
It makes you want to know why it's so forbidden, and then you want to experiment, and then things like where you're in an extremely oppressed situation like the Josh Duggars, those types of things will happen because you're so oppressed, and then that makes you way more curious, and then and when you don't have that proper education, you don't know what to do. So
that's exactly why I saw my first penis on the church bus.
See, there you go.
Because for some reason it was okay to have us all in the back of the church bus with just the driver to get us to and from church, but then they would break us all up once we were there. So all kinds of shit went down on the church bus.
Yeah, so let's get into the whole Christian rock scene. We were talking earlier about how you were actually an opening band for the Newsboys.
Yeah, that's going back early 90s-ish, somewhere around there, 90s.
They were pretty big back then.
Yeah, they were. And, it was a event at one of the local churches, one of the larger churches. It seats, a couple thousand people. But, back in that, it was like the biggest experience for me at the time. And even looking back on it now, it still is it's a highlight of being able to play in front of thousands of people. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
But it's all about the emotional being up on stage and feeling that energy that you get. I don't know if anyone else has played in a band or spoke in front of people like that, but being up there, it's more about yourself feeling good.
Right.
No, we're singing songs about God and Jesus and things of that nature. I could not wait to get back up on stage so I could have that same feeling again, which I was told was
God.
God, right? Yeah, the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Through, and it was nothing more than just that adrenaline rush.
Exactly. It's a mob mentality.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a mob thing to where you just feel what everyone else is going through because you're all right there with each other. I mean, I am an atheist to deities, which is a huge thing of atheism, but I believe that our brains have some kind of frequency. We don't understand it yet, but there's some kind of thing going on. Some kind of connection with that stuff. That's what my belief as an atheist. Some kind of connection with that. But
we get all kinds of fun chemicals released in our brains when we get in groups together and are all in agreement about a subject, and it just makes you feel all euphoric and like there must be something supernatural going on, but all it is our brain chemistry happening.
And that's how people are saved with Jesus, is they're going through that, and their brains are going through this whole entire process, and they're just like, I feel Jesus. But if you look at every other religion...
no, you don't feel Jesus. You feel dopamine.
Yeah, like you feel your brain going through amazing things. It's just like... You you're just saying God because somebody told you it was God. That's
Mhm.
really what it comes down
Yeah.
to. Somebody said God, so you're just like God. And
Right.
it's crazy
Yeah.
because that ends up becoming an entire life. It takes over your life. It takes
Mhm.
over everybody who's a
And then-
believer. It takes over your life.
And it brings you back to church every week because you get that feeling when you're at church.
And it's a
Yep.
good feeling. It feels great.
Yep.
Of course
Mhm.
it feels great. That's
It
why you
can,
keep going
sure.
back.
Yeah.
No, and we
Um,
were going over earlier about the industry of the rock music, of how a lot of musicians in the rock industry, not even
Mhm.
just rock, but like just Christian music in general, don't believe.
Correct.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah, I was out on tour for, probably 4 years or so, and doing everything, small things to some, larger events and things. And the thing that always seemed to carry on when we talked with some of the groups and stuff, they don't, they're just trapped in this world where they don't really have anything else to go to once they escape um, the Christian music scene. And a lot of them either were agnostic, they were kind of apathetic towards it, like, does it really matter anymore? I'm making people feel good. I get up there and they leave the show feeling happy, and they feel like they received something from God. And who am I to stop doing that? And that's how they made money, and they did really well at it. Some of these groups.
Oh yeah.
So
I was
so
a big listener to Christian
Yeah.
music.
and so, yeah, and it just goes back to that emotions feeling with those connections with those people, and that's what they kind of thrived on. It wasn't really about God and trying to convert people to God or Jesus. It was just about that, getting up there and getting that emotional support that they desired week after week.
Right.
Mhm.
It's
Okay,
crazy.
we have a question from the audience here.
Awesome.
Were you at any point a street preacher?
Street preacher, not necessarily standing on a corner preaching. It was more like walking down the street and saying, "Hey, can I ask you a question?"
So almost like a Mormon or Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, door to door.
But it
type
wasn't
of
that
thing.
extreme to like where you were speaking of.
Not
You
saying-
weren't. You weren't with the megaphone on the corner telling people that they're going to go to hell.
No, I didn't do that.
Okay.
Now last week we were talking about evangelists going out to different countries and misappropriating funds, and they're going out there and they're not exactly doing what they should be doing. They're not exactly teaching these kids. They're just kind of giving them Bibles, teaching them about God, and then leaving them to their ways. And then we know, with our viewers probably have heard of Uganda. They kind of have gone over there, given them Bibles. These people have read these Bibles. They've read the Old Testament, and that's bad. That's really bad.
Yeah.
And they're basically taking it to literalism because the Christians told them this all exists. This is all real. If you don't follow this, you will go to hell for eternity. You need this Bible. So they're leaving. These people are by themselves. They're reading the Bible. They're hating life. They're hating gays now, and they're killing people. They're literally murdering people. It's a genocide over there. We've seen this in the reports. So let's go back to when basically throughout these last 20 years, when you've gone on international missions, what have you seen personally as a witness?
Sure. Personally, it's everything from the holding a meal hostage in order to, you have to sit through a prayer service or, some sort of message.
Oh, wow.
It's raising money for the missionaries to go to these places, and then when you go visit them to help support their ministry, their homes would be behind gated communities.
Oh my God.
Living very well, because it doesn't require a lot of money to live really, really well in some of these foreign countries. And even to the point where it's like I see these people needing medical care and needing decent meals and food, but all the money is tied up in trips to get there. It's tied up in even court battles with some groups trying to force their literature to be sent home with children so they can go to like a a child, evangelism group and things of that nature. And the money could be spent more wisely if we had people who actually would donate money, that $3,000, without requiring and having them go on a trip. Because a lot of these teen missions, they're not going there necessarily to save and help. They're going there because all their buddies and friends are going there, and it's just like vacation time for them. That's really what it's all about, and that's what I would see. A bunch of everyone having a good time, having fun, while they handed out some meals, once they, held it over their head to sit through a message,
Right.
And the biggest thing for me was seeing those. This is on more than one occasion, seeing the missionaries living in gated communities and homes.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. That is literally
Right next-
disgusting.
Right next to the slums.
right next to. That is, I don't know. Like, if you're gonna go there, I mean,
Live
you're
with
gonna
them.
need a place. You're gonna need like some kind of a place to live. But yeah, you should live with them in the community where you're helping the people. You shouldn't be living off over here with some big, gigantic, fancy house
Now, do we
and
know of
claiming
any?
that you're helping.
But do we
people.
know of any missions that do go and hang out in the slums and risk their lives with the gangs and stuff like that? Do we know of organizations that do that? That go out there and really live with the people and really help them and really teach them?
I don't know personally, organization-wise. I do know of a few missionaries who were like that, who
That's awesome.
actually,
They risk their lives, literally.
they would get shot at. They would be afraid that in Venezuela, for example, there was a guy and his family, and this guy and another guy going out and preaching, and they come across like guerrilla warfare type situation, and they almost, were taken. So there are situations, unless that story is not accurate, which it may be, to gain more money.
That's a good point, though.
But there are groups, organizations that do go out and help and don't require this ridiculousness of holding hostage to the food and the supplies that these people need.
Yeah.
So there are groups that are like that.
So, and these are the Christian groups, you mean? These were Christian missionaries, so that's good. But I mean, what we see mostly is just abuse of this idea of going over there with prayer and teaching them the gospel, and then they're going to be saved and they're going to be healed and they're going to be okay. No, that's bullshit.
And then they leave.
And then they leave, come back home. They're great. They're happy. They're cool. They continue on their way.
We set them up for the afterlife, so we're super awesome and special.
Yeah.
But then they're back there starving to death again.
Yeah, they come back over here and they feel great, and they're like, oh my god, we helped them so much. And it's like, how did you really help them? What did you really do? And this is a majority. This is a majority of those organizations. We played the video last week. It was disgusting. It was definitely disgusting. These girls didn't know English, but the only English words they knew were to say how much they learned about God. And it's just like, what else did you learn?
Right.
It's
I mean, when I got to my deconversion process, it turned around. I still was hanging out with a lot of my Christian friends, and a lot of my family's still Christian. And I would turn around and say, "But why go, 8,000 miles away when you can go 20 miles down into the city, where there's people sitting on the street side that need a place to live? That money could go to good use, even in your own community.
Yeah.
Why don't we build our own community up rather than going 8,000 miles a world away for a vacation, essentially,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
a vacation where you're supposed to help people, but don't.
Yeah, and it's definitely very much a vacation, especially with the youth groups, because like whenever I went to the Dream Center, like I wasn't old enough to go to like Skid Row or any of the places that really needed a lot of the help. So a lot of the things that I did, like I washed school buses, or I wasn't really doing, or there was one day that all I did was go to Echo Park and pick up trash. And it's like, so I paid $2,000 to go to Los Angeles to the Dream Center for a week, and it was basically just like a vacation where I ran around and had fun with my friends. We actually went to like Magic Mountain and stuff while we were there,
Well, yeah, like what they do, they go over there and they do these things for a few hours during the day, and then they're done.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we would do, is we would go off and do something for a couple hours, and then we would go and
Do
do
tourist
something
stuff.
fun.
Tourism.
Yeah, go do something fun as like a reward for how awesome for Jesus we were that day. And
Yeah,
it
right.
was,
And
and we weren't really doing anything. Like, nothing good was actually really accomplished. I mean, yeah, like some people got fed and stuff, but there were no actual solutions to anyone's problems put into place.
just like, here's a sandwich. That make you feel better? Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, damn it, man. Teach me how to like do something. Because when you're looking at international communities, you're looking at kids who don't have parents, who don't have a proper support system, who don't have the ability to learn because they don't have any schools built for them, they don't have hospitals to heal them. So that's what they need. They need these practical things that will help them stay alive. Stay alive for a really long time. But instead, they go over there and they just give them the Bible, and it's like, and then they build a church, and it's like, cool.
Right.
You built
Right.
a church. Like, what is that going to do?
A whole lot of nothing.
Nothing. Yep.
Yeah, literally. Let's go in there and pray for my son whose leg is about to fucking come off with gangrene. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
So true.
It's messed up. It's really just disgusting, and it needs to be. There needs to be more awareness in the atheist community to where, or not even atheist community, but secular community, to where people don't care about beliefs, and they're not going over there and teaching these kids what to believe. They're going there and teaching them how to live. Big difference between the two. There needs to be some kind of change with that. It needs to shift over, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, because there's a lot of secular people, like, they don't really believe in it, but they're like, I'm going to go on these mission trips through these religious organizations because they feel like that's the only way that they can really do anything.
But then
because
they go
even
in
though
and
they
they're
don't,
told to still hand out Bibles.
Right.
yeah, and then they still do it because they're like, well, that goes hand in hand with the helping people. But it's like, no, you're not really helping people. You could just donate your money to, like, Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing.
Or like last week we talked about that group that they're like, oh, it's cost us 55 cents per every soul that we have won over for heaven.
It's like, give them
and it's
10
like,
bucks.
you know what 55 cents could do for
It's
like
huge.
giving children vaccines?
It's huge.
Like, how many kids could they have, like, vaccinated against, like, malaria or something over there? Or how many, like, mosquito nets could they have given out for people to put over their beds and getting eaten up by bugs at night?
Yeah.
There's so much that...
Right.
Yeah, there's so much that 55 cents per soul could do.
And did you guys keep track of your baptisms and salvations and all that crap?
Oh, absolutely. That was it was about that numbers game. You know, it was about how many did we see baptized this year. I mean, my goodness, we saw people get baptized more than once. I mean, it was ridiculous. You know what I mean?
I sinned a bunch of times. Clean me again.
It's ridiculous.
And they don't even know what the sins are. That's the thing.
Right.
Well, they were born sin. Like, they were born into sin. Everybody has sin, blah, blah, blah. You know, all that bullshit.
So when you, I mean, like, what was I going to say? I was just going to say something profound. I completely forgot what I was going to say. But, yeah, so, like, what are some personal experiences, I guess, from that? Like, what's one of your craziest stories from going out of country?
Craziest story was riding on a bus in El Salvador, and seeing people get murdered on the side of the road.
What?
Yep.
By the, what, gangs? By the...
Yeah, by whoever the, people were. But yeah, seeing people get shot and killed right on the side of the road.
Wow.
And I did not want to go back on another missions trip after that, only because for my own safety.
Right.
I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. We're going to places where there's people that are possibly going to kill you, and we're going with Bibles to protect us.
Right.
I was kind of getting done with that.
Even a believer will be like, I need insurance.
Yeah. Well, like, because whenever we went before, on the mission trip that I went on, before we went to go door knocking in Compton to invite the little kids them to come over to like this little baseball game and hot dogs and stuff that we were doing over in the field or whatever. Everybody's like, well, let's just get into a huddle and pray that, you know, God is
safe.
going to protect us. Yeah, God's going to shield us from any harm that we may experience, you know, that could happen to us today. And then it's like, I'm a 15-year-old girl, weigh all of 85 pounds, and they give me little flyers to go knocking door to door in Compton.
Wow.
But I'm shielded by Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing happened to me. Nothing bad happened to me. But it's like,
that's proof.
Jesus shield worked.
It's proof. That's proof of his existence. It's a miracle. All right, so let's get into your activism. Actually, we got started here trying to educate people. We don't really care about disproving God because you can't disprove God. It's impossible. What we want to do is educate people on the history of religion, and you've done that. You've created a YouTube channel. It's called Truth Explained. For everybody who hasn't heard of it yet, basically you go through and explain what you want. Tell us more about that. What made you start? How long it's been around?
Yeah, it's been around for a few years now. I mean, I just got started a couple years ago doing the YouTube channel. I have to update and do some more, but even on my website, truthexplained.org, there's a lot of resources to go through and to click about all sorts of Bible contradictions, errancies type stuff. And that's really what my main goal is, to try to point out to people the inconsistencies that are found within the Bible specifically. And try to go through and have that as a place for people to easily reference and have an idea of, when you're talking to somebody, hey, what about this? If he said this here, you know, why is the story about Jesus' birth different here in comparison to here? You know, or why is the story of Noah so ridiculous, and what's going on there? You know, so that's pretty much what my intent was, to try to get the channel and the website up to do.
It's awesome because a lot of believers have these questions. They read the Bible, they're told to read the Bible, they go through it, and they're wondering why this, why that. It happened to me. I was 14, 15 years old reading through the first few books of the Bible just because I was told I had to. So when I read through them, I'm sitting there in Leviticus, and I just kept skipping through stuff. And I'm like flipping through pages, and I'm just like, this is stupid, this is stupid. Why do I believe any of this? Like, what is going on here? This is crazy. I have a video queued up. It's a little promo that you made. When did you make this video? The one talking about future videos.
Oh, it's probably around 2012, somewhere around there.
Okay. So we're going to play this video for you all to check out the website, the channel.
Thanks for visiting TruthExplained.org's video YouTube channel, where we try to explain the mysteries in the crazy, wild, wacky world of biblical contradictions. Now today I just wanted to give you a preview of what's to come in future episodes, where we kind of do a Contradictions 101 with regard to the Bible. We can go through a list of hundreds of different contradictions. There's probably thousands that you can actually get through. But a couple that I wanted to go through, we talked about one about the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ in another video. You can click right there to check that out. But also, we talked about the empty tomb and who was there and what was going on. We're going to also talk about the genealogy of Jesus and why there's a difference with that. We're also going to talk about some of the stuff with Genesis about who was first, beast or man. We're also going to talk about Judas and how he died. Those are all going to be on an up-and-coming episode. I hope you'll stick around and check those out. We're going to do a video a week until we can get through this list of probably 100 or so that I'm looking at. So until then, I hope you enjoy.
Awesome. So what inspired you to start a channel in the first place?
I think it was I wanted a place. It was kind of like my deconversioning process of like what I went through and kind of the steps that I took to find out that the Bible is full of crap.
How many times have you read the Bible?
More than 10, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah. different versions, different things, and I wanted to try to go down a list of stuff that helped me through my deconversion and put those in a format where it's not a 40-minute thing. It's more like a 3 to 6 minute type thing to try to quickly engage, and you can move on as your time allows.
Right. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your deconversion process, when did that start? Because now, I mean, you were in evangelicalism for how long?
95-ish up until 2003, 2004-ish. I was really into it. After that, I just kind of went to church, did the Sunday thing once in a while type of thing. But not until it came to around 2007, 2008, my son asked me a question. He was like 5 at the time, and said, "Hey, Dad, if Jesus made God, who made God?" And I went to my basket of tricks, and I said, "Well, because God always existed." And I hesitated for a moment, and I thought, "Wait a minute, what am I doing here? I'm not really giving an answer that I know it's to be valid." That's what kind of kick-started my journey, was my 5-year-old son asking me a question about it.
That's awesome, dude.
He didn't know the answer to that. He's 5. I'm like, how do you say that at 5 years old? So that's what kickstarted it, and it went rapidly. It took maybe a year at the most for me to be like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, and that curiosity is ideal for a kid to grow up, and that's what is oppressed by religion, is that they tell you not to be curious, they tell you not to question things, and that's what's harmful. That's what's harmful for the future of our planet, not just for the kid itself, but future scientists can't figure things out because they're not curious. How can you pursue knowledge if you don't know, if you're not asking the right questions, if you're told not to ask the questions? That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't think that way. They think that, well, if God needs us to know it, God's going to tell it to somebody, and then they'll do it. Like, they think that everything that happens
This is planned.
is God put it in their heart to build the whatever. Like, God decided this person should make the iPhone. It's like, and it's all God's plan. It's not because people have been curious and wanted to figure things out and were innovative on their own. It's somehow God.
Yeah.
Right.
It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's really terrible.
Yeah.
No.
So we were also, before the show, we were talking about how you've had just silly videos that end up going viral, but like your serious videos don't.
The videos about atheism get like no hits, and then the one
Yeah.
silly video that you made got some. Let me see.
Yeah, on the YouTube link, it's not as much, but it was all sorts of different affiliate sites and things. Once it gets picked up by a group, they'll promote it and send it out. And it was just of my dog escaping from her puppy prison, which is kind of funny. But yeah, she made us some money for that, so I'm pretty thankful, and it made it on Good Morning America's play of the day.
We have that video queued up here. We want to show what America cares about instead of the truth. Instead of the truth explained, we've got these kinds of things getting viral.
Yeah.
So
this phenomena of silliness that's spreading rather than the
basically
serious.
a cat video.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and. Oh, hold on.
Puppy. And play of the day, because we're going to bring you Hazel the puppy. And I have a puppy, and we put him in that enclosure, and we say, you have to stay there, and you think the puppy's going to stay there. Well, this is Hazel, and she's got her sights set beyond her puppy pen. Maybe there's some toilet paper out there she'd like to.
They're getting really into it.
Over the house.
Yeah.
I love the music. The owners have set up a camera, and they quickly realized that even though she might be small, she's not looks like a short on the right.
You added that music?
Yeah.
Music. I mean, do you know how this one's going to end? I'm not sure. Is she going to get over?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Do it. All the way to beyond that pen. It's right there. You're
That is
almost
awful.
there. Come on, Hazel.
That's what they care about.
Can you do it? Come on.
And they're going so hard into it. And then
I
they
mean,
cheered.
the puppy is adorable, damn it. But
It is. It is.
Yes, she is.
Definitely no argument there, but geez, that's awesome.
Yep. The dumbing down of America.
yeah.
Pretty much. Now, let's get into a topic that, could be difficult for some to go over. You were diagnosed in August, you said, with lymphoma,
I was.
a type of cancer. There are many people out there who have cancer. Many people who, once diagnosed with cancer, they look for answers and they find religion. And it's unnecessary, but that's basically all they have because it's the majority of options that they have. So, as an atheist, as somebody who goes through a deconversion process and then realizes that you should be actually explaining and educating people against it, how is it, having such a thing?
How do I cope with it, right?
Right, yeah.
It's, it's interesting that once I removed the religious side of me, I found that I was better able to cope with difficulties in my life. Why is that? Simply because I now have to rely on myself to provide answers. I don't have to rely on, talking to somebody that isn't speaking back to me. And as a Christian, I would cry about those things. I would be heartbroken trying to reach out to God, trying to pray and not hearing any answers. But when I got rid of that and realized I need to go forward and fix this on my own, I need to, find out what's the best avenue for myself to deal with the depression issues that I may have, especially with getting lymphoma. It's been really difficult, but it seems like the people around me who are very religious are having a more difficult time with it and offering up prayers and doing those things. But I'm more of an action-oriented person when it comes to this and trying to deal with it on my own with researching it for myself, find out what scientists say about lymphoma and cancer, why it does this, why it does that, and actually going down a trail to figure things out on my own and relying on myself to find those answers and listening to my doctors and things of that nature. So, more of my family cries over the fact that I have, cancer than myself.
Yeah. And also, religious people, they want to know what they did wrong that's making God punish them.
Yes. I've heard that even of my own situation.
Or or people have probably told you that it's because you rejected God or something like that.
I imagine that's in the minds of many of them, because I will say this, and I'm very thankful for people who have given some help with donations. I'm not working right now. I'm on unpaid leave from work, and I have more Christian friends on my Facebook page than I do my atheist or non, religious friends. And I've known those friends for decades, and years and years. And only like 3, maybe 4 out of 30 people who gave were my friends for decades. That's it.
Yeah.
Who were Christians.
They're praying for you. They
offered prayers and nothing else, and and I felt like it's a slap in the face. That stuff that made me more angry about it was, you're going to offer, I'm praying for you, which means you're going to do nothing. And and here I have a community of friends that are willing to do more for me.
That happened with me whenever I lost my house a few years ago. And one of my atheist friends, which at that time I wasn't like super out about being atheist, but one of my atheist friends set up a GoFundMe for me to help us get moved to a different house. And all of my Christian family members and Christian friends were like, oh, we pray that things are going to work out and that God leads you to a solution to your problems and, all that stuff. But they didn't, like, some of them donated, but the majority of the donations came from my other atheist, or not all of them were even atheists, but my online friends that were like, dude, we can't just sit around and pray about it. We got to throw money at the problem. That's what money is, what will fix the problem. And so, but then of course, whenever we ended up getting into the house that we're in now and everything got worked out, the Christians are like, oh, we knew God would provide. And I'm just
Exactly.
like, God, what the heck? That's not what happened. That is
No.
so not what happened here.
Yeah, that
And
is
it's so
frustrating.
frustrating. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's
it's
just like, I don't
frustrating.
understand the mindset of that.
No, I don't either. And I had a friend who eventually said and shared the post and said, put your prayers into action and actually do something rather than sitting by and doing nothing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
as much as they're offering well wishes and prayers, it's nice, but to go on and say I'm praying for you every time a link's posted about what's going on and doing nothing else is it's kind of a slap in the face to me from some of them who I've known for 20 years and 30 years in some
Yeah.
cases.
Mm-hmm.
But
That you've known forever, it seems like, and then whenever you need their help, they're just like
they're gone. And
not
that's
yeah. It's like they might as well not be there at all because whenever they say they're
yeah.
praying for you,
Hmm.
it's just insulting.
Yeah. And that when I was even going through a divorce situation, a lot of my friends left because they didn't want to catch whatever it was I'm going through, like as if I'm some sort of, having some sin gonna be thrown into their life because of it. That's just what they
Hmm.
do. They just leave when it's really difficult and tough, you know,
Yeah.
and aren't really there to provide support. I'm sure some places do, but not from where I grew up. It's not the way it was.
Yeah.
It's amazing because we were believers, so we even thought these things and felt them to be true, and we still
Yeah.
can't understand it.
Correct.
Like, we
Yeah.
went through it, and we
Well,
still
because-
don't know what's going on.
Because even when I was a kid, I've always been like, if I see that somebody needs something and there's something that I can do about it, like
Do it.
actually do about it, I do it. And I've always been that way. Like
Yeah,
I
same.
will just jump on doing things to actually help people, even if I don't even have like the financial means or whatever to really be doing that. I'm like, hey, that's fucked up. I see a way to do something about it. I'm going to do something about it.
Hmm.
And then, so maybe that's part of why I was able to unravel all of the
Yeah, most
bullshit
most
within the
believers are
religion.
taught to pray.
Hmm.
Yeah.
They're taught
'Cause-
to
and
do
then plus
nothing
it was
and
like,
pray.
I took the verse "faith without works is dead" seriously whenever
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
a Christian.
I never even read that verse when I was a Christian.
Oh.
I
it's like,
was the fundamental.
I didn't learn it at church. I read it on my own. But when
Mhm.
I read it, I was like, that makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. That
Right.
I can have faith and stuff happening all day long, but if you don't actually do things about it, it's not going to happen. And so I don't understand why Christians don't do that. It's like if they would do that, they would actually be able to change some things, but they don't. They're just like, oh, I'm praying. God's going to beam down a solution to your problems, or God's just magically going to... Like,
well,
I've seen
so
people
long as
say
you're
that,
good
like,
enough.
yeah, I've actually seen people say that, like, they're praying that their credit card debt goes away.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is that going to do?
Yeah.
Like, what? That God's going to bless them by, I guess, causing a bank error in their favor? They think this is Monopoly? Like, I don't know what they're thinking is going to happen.
Tom, your mic is muted.
Is it?
I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, we can't hear you. I didn't even know you was talking.
No.
No. Did you click the blue button on the screen, maybe, in Skype? No.
I don't know. That's weird.
Try unplugging it and plugging it back in again. There's always a tech issue. Always. Every episode.
Well, I mean, I guess this is a good place to wrap up anyway.
Good point to go ahead and wrap it up. Yeah. Well, it was awesome having Tom on. And really interesting. We'll probably have him on again sometime.
Yes, and definitely
And-
check out our episode last week that leads into this one that explains the whole...
Mm-hmm.
We have the trailers
Yep.
on there of evangelism. Check out his YouTube channel, Truth Explained. It'll show you some contradictions, teach you a little bit about the Bible. If you haven't read too much of it, it'll explain some things that you might have questions about.
And
Subscribe.
Tom has a You Caring page that is linked to on our website. If you look in the blog post about this episode, there's a link out to his You Caring page. You can keep up with what's going on with him and his family and donate.
You can donate and help him out, definitely.
Yeah. Donate and help him out. And subscribe to our channels. Channel. We only have one of them. And then
check out some of our older videos.
Yeah, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, all that fun stuff. And we also have a donate button on our website and also here on YouTube if you would like to. As you notice, my camera is horrible. So
we're getting a new one soon, though, so we'll be improving.
Yeah, I'm going to have a new one coming soon. But
Thank you all for your support, definitely. Yeah. And you all have a great night. We'll see you later next week, Tuesday, every week, Tuesday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for watching That Atheist Show.